All of the views and opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative of Koenig American. At times, language may be considered vulgar. Listener discretion is suggested.
You are now listening to the Koenig Behind the Wheel podcast.
What's going on? I'm Scott from Koenig. Welcome back to another episode of Wheel Wednesday. Jared, Scott, you know us. We've done this before.
Once or twice.
Yeah. And if you're joining us from the live, thanks for coming through. Make sure you go ahead and do that subscribe thing. It's always greatly appreciated. And let's be honest, that's what we're doing it for.
Right?
No.
Plus notifications. Always the notifications.
Right. Jared does it for the notifications. I do it for the subscribe button.
Well, truthfully, I do it for the gram, but, you know. Anyway.
So pathetic. Anyhow, before we introduce our guests, let's do a couple things. The first thing is, if you have not checked out the pieces of content that we're dropping on our YouTube channel every Friday, make sure you do that. We've been putting up a lot of stuff. I mean, it's getting better, and I think we're getting into a grind where there's actually going to be multiple pieces that we're going to be putting up, you know, every week. So make sure you stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for this Friday. We'll be putting out another piece of content. I want to tell you what it is, but honestly, we sometimes bring it down right to the last moment. So not sure. Let's see. So make sure you check out that for Friday. And in addition to that, weird announcement, but special in some sort of respect. We have made our own line of hub rings. It's because you guys asked so much about accessories. So if you go to store.konigwheels.com, you can find them there. We did plastic and aluminum. So for everybody that is preaching that they should be using aluminum, they're there. You can get them. They're really quality pieces. And even the, you know, for the plastic, maybe that's the video we'll put up on Friday, but, you know, we have tension tabs so they don't fall out of your, you know, out of your wheel when you take them off. Everybody knows how exhausting it is when you're trying to put your wheel in the car and you get the cheaper rings that, you know, just keep falling out of the back of your wheel. So
And let's face it, they come in really fancy colors, excuse me.
yeah,
I forgot how to speak English today.
Yeah,
apparently.
well, that's cool. Anyhow, with all that said, I want to bring our guest in. This guest is pretty special for me because our guest is Ali Arsham, and Ali Arsham was the co-founder of NASA, not the space agency, but like the National, you know, Auto Sport Association. And what's interesting about Ali is that he preceded me for having a relationship with Koenig. So I've been here for 15 years. When I came in here, Ali was already a well-versed, seasoned veteran, you know, with Koenig. And it's always been pretty special because I think he was probably one of the first relationships that I had made when I had come here outside of the building, right?
And I just met him.
Right, right. So we're spreading the tradition on, but you know, Ali has a lot of great stories. He does a lot of cool things. He's, in addition to NASA, you know, being co-founder of NASA, he is the managing director of USTCC, which is the United States Touring Car Championship, and most of that stuff happens in the California, NorCal region, but he'll tell us more about that. And he does some really exciting things with a program that CBS Sports picked up, which is that Final Drive TV. So let's get him in here. I guess without further ado, Ali Arsham.
Hello, Scott.
Ali.
Hello, Jared. How are you?
What's happening?
Oh, man, it's so great to see you guys.
Yeah, it's unusual
COVID
that
thing
this
sucks.
is the first time this year that we've had a face-to-face. It's usually more than that.
Yeah, definitely. It's just, can you fix this COVID situation thing, Scott?
Yeah, we're working on it.
Okay, good.
It's-
You keep fixing that.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, and I would imagine from, you know, your perspective on the racing side, this has been a really hard blow, not just, you know, financially from a business aspect of running race series and all the things that come with actually continuing to maintain a series, but also just for that pure car guy blow to the fact that you can't get on track.
Yeah, that was a problem. So last year, yeah, it hit us for about 4 or 5 months. We were delayed, but finally we managed to get on. But it was amazing because when we did get on, everybody was so hungry to get on the track that yeah, it was pretty special.
Yeah, I just read something this morning. I think Grassroots had put it out, but
Ooh,
You lost.
Stand by.
Oh, and we're back.
A little technical difficulty there.
Maybe not. You're muted. You got to unmute Ali.
And we don't have video.
What do you mean?
It's
You can't see it. Flip the screen around.
right.
You know,
If
it
you could
wouldn't
see
be exciting if we couldn't figure out a way to have at least a couple technical difficulties within this. Ali, you hear us now? Now we can't hear Ali. This is
Hold on 1 second, Ali.
All right. I think we're almost there.
What do
No?
they say? Almost only counts with horseshoes and hand grenades? Ali thought it was good.
Well, can we hear Ali now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank God. We we don't do long with long technical difficulties, so this is a good one.
Maybe it's all the snow you guys are having.
Seriously.
You're not kidding. I don't even know where to put it. You know, in New York, when the snow is too much, when you go through parking lots and most of the spaces are now eliminated because they just have piles of snow.
That's our parking lot right now.
Yeah. It's like drawing a slalom coming in the morning. But so you were talking about how difficult it was been with kind of the lapse in time for racing, especially last year. And I was saying that I think Grassroots put something out that in January the amount of people that went to the track was just like far beyond the January of 20. So that was before the pandemic hit. So they're saying like, hey, people are hungry to get back on track.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the definitely we're definitely seeing that, not just for racing but also for just regular track events. Because one of the other things I do is I organize this group called Track Time, and we just do track day events. And we had one of our biggest events in December,
right?
Where we were full, and that never happens. So we had to turn people away.
Now, are you doing anything from a racing standpoint as far as a series director to deal with any of the COVID things? I know some of the drifting leagues, they have put in restrictions about no spectators or people, precaution for the pits in different areas. Do you have to deal with anything like that?
Yeah, we do the similar stuff. No spectators, and it's a pain in the neck because some people want to bring their family and friends to the track, and they got to go through all these things to get them there. And on the podium, I got to yell at people to wear their masks and things like that. But we deal with it. It's all small stuff in the big scheme of things. So it's not that bad.
The important part is to actually get back to the track.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're definitely fortunate that we're doing it. So, if you have to wear a mask or you have to stand, over there or whatever, that's not a big deal compared to the whole thing.
I want you to tell people the story. So you were a co-founder of NASA, obviously a different thing. And what's interesting is, I want you to tell the story of kind of how you got that founded. Like, where did that came from?
Well, okay. So I was in college and broke, of course. But I wanted to drive, and I wanted to, all I had was a primered, beat up car that was good under the skins. I was a track car. I wanted to drive it, but there was no place back then that you could take your street car. The only way you could get on the track was to go race with SCCA, which required the roll cage and a truck and a trailer and all those kind of things that I had none of that. And or you could do track day events with the Porsche Club, BMW Club, or Shelby Club. Those were the three clubs that were doing it. And of course, I couldn't afford either one of those three either.
Right.
So it was like, what are we supposed to do? So there was only one club, the Mini Club of all people, had an event once a year. And that was the one chance a year you had, one day out of the year, that you could drive on the track at speed. So we thought, well, there's got to be more people like us who have, at the time I had my Capri, and there's got to be more people that have, low budget cars that want to get on the track.
Yeah.
And so we did an event in 1989, November 26, 1989, and we were full.
Right.
Even though it was a little semi-wet, it was sprinkled on us a little bit. Despite that, and it was cold day in the in winter, and but it was full. So we thought, well, we're onto something. So then that just kicked things off.
No, you did that with the now executive director of NASA.
Yes, Jerry Kunstman.
Yeah. Yep. So what altered the path? So Jerry obviously stayed in the national agency, and you kind of went the direction of running more regional based type things. What caused that to change?
Oh, it was just different outlooks and how at that time, we were growing pretty big and we had different regions and things like that. But as you get bigger, then it's more of a business. It's not just two car guys just want to have fun, right? So
Right.
So then, and we actually worked well together because I had certain things that he didn't have, and he had certain things that I didn't have. So it worked out well. But by that time, it was just time to move on and do things. I didn't like, it was just too stressful for me.
Right. I get that, because I've known you for a really long time, and I would say that we have put a good personal relationship, but we're not like so close just because of the pure nature of distance. And you've always been the car guy. I mean, Ali raced. You still race.
Yeah, I actually try not to. I'm actually I suck at the racing thing because I don't have time to put the effort into it.
Yeah.
If you want to do anything at a super high level, you have to put.
Oh no! What is going on today? Uh-oh. Hello?
He can hear you, but now he
yeah.
can't.
Hold on one second.
Now we can't hear him until Alex changes his thing.
I hope it's you and not me.
No, it's us.
It's definitely us.
Oh, it's definitely us. We know what happens every single time. Something's happened with the capture card. It keeps knocking it out.
I think it's off the camera.
You think it's the camera?
Yeah.
Well, that's bad. Well, I tell you what, Alex, here's the temporary fix. Turn this monitor around. We won't see Ali. We'll listen to Ali. And you now know when it goes sideways and at least can correct it quickly. Because that's what we're working with right now.
Yeah.
Anyhow. But yeah, so you've always kind of been doing a lot of the racing. I mean, and you were racing your Civic right up until you got into the Genesis Coupe.
Yeah. No, we have had a lot of cars in our stable. The Genesis is one of our newer cars, and we have a couple of those. And but this year we're gonna be racing 6 cars on the team, and getting all these cars to the track, and we're going further and further away. Yeah, it's not easy, but it's also. I mean, I'm really passionate about cars and things, and I see a lot of people who say they're car guys, and I see them, and I'm thinking, no, you're not a car guy. You don't know anything. So, for me, it's my wife can attest to this because from day one, she knew that like this is going to be our life.
Yeah.
So if you don't like cars, then we should have no business being together.
Yeah.
Which helps because she used to race too. She won a couple of championships long ago and things like that. So, and now my son races and my daughter is getting her racing license, so she's getting started. So it's a true racing family.
It's gonna be in your gene pool eventually.
It is, and actually, one of the things we're trying to do is as soon as my daughter's probably, I'm guessing, a year away or so from getting her license. So I don't think it's ever been done. We want to do one race where all 4 of us are in the same race together.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I don't think that's ever been done where you have a husband, wife, and kids all in the same race together.
Ali, sometimes I struggle to get all 4 of us into one living room. But
yeah.
I think it's fantastic. All right, here's a random question. At what age did your kids start showing interest in the cars to the point where they were like actually coming out to the garage?
Well, they both started racing go-karts when they were 5,
Oh,
and they kind of like that.
yeah,
Um, but then, you never know if that's just a little, fun thing that a kid likes to do.
right.
Um, but my son, I actually asked him this a few years back, where I thought, like, because he could have gone either way. He could have, he was kind of liking the stuff, but then not exactly. And he said, what turned it around for him was that he realized he's actually good at it, so it was
Mm,
fun. Um, he
that's
said if
interesting.
he wasn't good at it, then he would have just given up and just said forget it.
That's a real life lesson there, folks.
Yeah.
No, I know. My whole thing is I don't want my kids to do the same thing as me. I kind of want them to blaze their own path. But my son who's interested, and he's only 6, but my son who's interested in car stuff, he doesn't ever want to come out to the garage with me, and that's okay. But I kind of wish in like just a little bit of a way he wants to, you know, at least look at things and because I always remember being a kid being purely fascinated with it.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Well, give it time too, because 6 is a little too young still.
I know, but they were racing
Anyway,
go karts when they were 5.
I know, but that's just something kids do.
Yeah.
But one of the things I realized when dealing with 5, 6-year-olds at the racetrack is there's so many immature 5, 6-year-olds out there too.
Well, yeah.
Because when you're at these kid go-kart races, it's amazing because there were like 10 cars and 10 kids in the race, and there were at this particular time there were only 2, my son and this other kid, who were very serious about it, knew the rules, knew what to do, and things like that. All the other kids were just goofing off, and they
Yeah.
thought it was just funny. They would not stop for yellow, for red flags, and pass under yellow, and do how, almost run people over and things like that. And
Yeah.
but I knew, but it wasn't just the kid; it was the parents who thought that this was funny too.
Hmm.
So
It's
give it
interesting.
time.
It's like my son, we're trying to find what he likes to do, So last year it was soccer. This year he's in a ninja class. But so last year when he was in soccer, Ali, I swear, every time a plane flew over the field, the entire soccer game stopped and looked up.
Huh.
It
Okay.
was awful. So yeah, I can imagine how it would be with automotive related things.
Yeah, yes. You have to make it fun for them too. So
That's true. So when you started NASA, there's 2 things that come to my mind. One is the fact that NASA, while I understand the abbreviation, did you have any other trouble with the actual NASA, like the space NASA?
not as a, not no, because with these things, keep in mind, nobody notices it until you get big enough.
Right.
When you're small, nobody cares. Nobody notices anything.
Yeah. How
So
was
that's
how was getting started with the SCCA? Because I would imagine at that time when they had really no competition, that did they look at you as competitors, or you were so they were so big at that point they just didn't really pay you any attention?
Well, at the beginning it was like that, but once
Getting
they
size.
started seeing their fields drop and their racers come run with us, then they started paying attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes
I would
sense.
imagine that was there was some tension there in certain instances.
Probably, yeah. I'm sure there was, but I mean, we weren't trying to take away business from
Right.
SCCA or anything like that. That was never our intention. I started racing with SCCA. I worked for SCCA. My during college, I actually worked in their office. So that wasn't any of our intention or anything. But my goal was to do racing the way that I wanted it to be. So I wanted, I raced the SCCA, and there were certain things I liked and certain things I didn't like, and I thought, well, that's what we should do, is make it the way it should be,
Yeah. Well,
and at least the way we thought it should be.
and what's interesting to me, and this is why I always think that Ali has to be one of the most underrated as far as the person that gets some of the spotlight. Because when you think about it, no NASA, think about all the events now that go away as far as how we know them to be. Autocross and, things like Hyperfest and all the events that are around the country, the HPDEs and all these events that allow people to get out and start to experience motorsports with what they currently have for the first time, and then start to learn how to hold their own on track.
Yeah. I don't know. It's I'm not one of these guys who has a big ego or
I know.
who wants the spotlight on him. So I actually yell at our drivers because most of the racing drivers, especially when you get to the more pro level they have huge egos,
Mhm.
and I can't stand that.
Yeah.
I started one of the teams I used to race with was the Spoon Sports team from Japan in a Honda, and dealing with the full Japanese team and crew and everything was so nice because their whole view is being humble, and we had some American drivers on the team, and these guys were hot shots, and they were always talking about how they know what to do and everything, and the Japanese hated them because they don't like that kind of attitude. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's like we have drivers now, whether they be sponsored or not, that almost feel like their big contributing achievement is just to have the wheels on the car while
And place.
and a decal.
Right.
Yeah.
It's come a far
Right.
way, but that's not what it is anymore.
Nope. No, we're always doing like we're always every time we're mounting balancing wheels, we go, "Hey, we gotta take a picture, we gotta take
Right.
a video, we gotta do this, we gotta do that." It's always
Yeah.
stuff like that.
It was way easier when you could just put things in magazines and not have to worry about all this stuff.
Well, at least now you have your phone, so you always have a camera wherever you go, so that's good.
Yeah, that's valid. So
Yeah.
USTCC, where did your involvement begin there?
So back in, I think it was 1996 or so, one of my friends came up to me and said, "Hey, he's got this idea to create this touring car series," and he built a prototype car. So at the time, he built a 240 SX, and so I thought, okay. So he showed me the car and told me about what his vision was and things like that, and so I liked it. And we said, okay, let's try it and see how it goes. And then, but I soon realized that he had no idea what touring car racing was.
Right.
So, but it was fine. I mean, he got the idea, he got the ball moving and everything. And then, so we started the first season, I think 1997. At the time it was called Pacific Coast Touring Car. And then in 2000, we started US Touring Car, and we started doing stuff more than just Northern California, all over the place. And our goal is to just, right. Our tagline is professional touring car racing made affordable. And so that's kind of what we're doing is, if you wanted to race, because the way really it happened is I was racing SCCA, and I was racing NASA, but I wanted to do more than just club racing. I wanted to go pro. But back then, and even worse so today, you need millions and millions to do like IMSA or whatever, or SRO or whatever it's called these days. So it was super expensive, and of course I couldn't afford. Again, it was just like the track day thing. I thought, well, we can't afford that, but there's got to be other people in my shoes that want to do that, but they can't afford. They don't have the money either. So we thought there's got to be in the middle somewhere, because right now, if you look at most of the series that are kind of like in the middle, they're still super expensive, and almost all of them are geared towards the younger people, the 14, 15-year-olds that want to go and become IndyCar drivers or whatever, the F4 series and things like that. So there's really not much in the middle. So that's where we're kind of at.
Yeah, it's an interesting series, right? Because you get such great guys. I've met guys like Michael McCulloughan, Larry Banney. These are race hardcore guys that really, racing's expensive even if you didn't have to pay for anything else. If you just had to maintain the car and actually get yourself to a track and back, it'd be expensive. So the ability to bring a whole series on an affordable level so that guys can, enjoy this and still, maintain a day job and then, still be able to be competitive is pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, racing is never cheap, and everybody says their racing is cheap, but it's all on a relative level. But we try to keep things as inexpensive as possible. But like we've done on our team, the biggest expense is still traveling.
Yeah.
Is just getting the crew and the cars and all the equipment to each event. That's the most expensive part. But we try to do things so that we take the pain off for a lot of people. How about that?
Yeah.
We try to get the schedule so it's there's nice gaps in the middle, so people have time to do their day job and things like that. But our drivers, guys like you just mentioned, like Michael McCulligan, they are really enthusiastic and they work really, really hard just to get the job done. They make a lot of sacrifices, and but it's because they're passionate about racing and they just want to race.
Yeah. There's no doubt that racing is a huge sacrifice. It's, first off, a lot of these events happen obviously on weekends. And so immediately you're either, well, I don't want to say you're leaving your family time behind, because I think most of the racing families, that's kind of what they are. They're racing families. They all seem to gravitate towards the track, which kind of refers to what you were talking about earlier with the limitations of people actually coming as spectators to the track.
Yeah, for sure. I'm lucky because my family likes racing, and we all do this as a family together, and so that part's nice. But yeah, it's there are a lot of people, there are a lot of our drivers who I never see their wives or their kids or whatever, because they say, like, you go play, do whatever you want to do, and leave me alone. So
yeah, it is a hard thing if you're not into racing in cars. It's a hard thing to be at the track. First off, it goes on at least all day, and then there's the travel time if you're not at a 2-day event, and then the hotels, and arguably it's one thing when you go to like a SEMA, right? You go to SEMA, and it's a single event that happens. So you may save up for that, and you may eat at nicer restaurants. But when you're going to race every weekend, you're not going to the nicest restaurants every weekend. You're going to eat something. So it starts to lose.
Yeah, especially when you have like us, when we have I have to feed a crew of 30 people.
Right.
It gets expensive if you want to take them to a nice restaurant.
Right. That's when they start having those trailers and the pull out and all the cooking at the track kind of thing.
That's what we do. We actually have a whole dedicated thing just for the food.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But it's really fun because there's some gamesmanship amongst the teams. So right now there are 3 really big teams that have 5-6 cars in the series, and everybody tries to outdo each other. So one guy, shows, and then one guy shows off. Oh, look, we got a new grill. Look at all this food we have. And then another team comes over, like, oh yeah, we have a bigger grill. Look at this.
Yeah,
a lot of that.
That competitive nature doesn't end no matter what area you're in.
Yes. Oh yeah, you got coffee? Well, we have cappuccino.
Yeah.
It's like that.
We got a whole espresso machine.
Yes.
There is this thing about racing, though. I'm maybe not on certain levels, like maybe not in an IMSA level or whatever it may be, but I don't have enough exposure to even comment on that type of racing. But for me, my early draw to racing was drag racing, and obviously that kind of fizzled out with all tracks kind of just going away. But I didn't do a lot of autocrossing or road racing, so I don't have a big thing there. But I will say that just from going to all these events throughout my years at Koenig, the one thing you really know is that even the people that are technically competing against each other, when they're at the track, they sort of become like this awkward family, right? And that whole thing with the food and hanging around and sitting in the chairs and kind of just being together, there is a lot of that happens makes it so much enjoyable. I think some of the best times I've had have been at full day track rentals. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. No, that's definitely a huge part, and it's so much fun because um, it's like why people go to church, right? So it's not because that they need to be there; it's because they like the people that they're hanging out with over there.
Right.
And it's the same with us. It's this is my version of going to church. So,
Yeah. Well, and now you get to hang out with your friends from 6 feet away.
yeah, yeah. But it's so much fun because we have a really good relationship with each other, and everybody knows what each other does. So if you have an electrician in the field and you need something in your house, you just call that guy. Hey man, can you come over and help me out?
Yeah.
My dentist is a racer, and then people go, why do you go so far to see a dentist? I go, because he's a racer and I trust him, so I go there.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
It's that networking.
Yeah,
Yeah, in a weird
Yeah.
way, right?
it's awesome. It's a very small community, and everybody just really helps each other out.
It's like calling your Uncle John and saying, "Hey, I got this outlet that doesn't work. Can you come over and figure it
Right.
out?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ali, you
Yeah.
have built cars. I mean, we're talking about racing and different things. You've always built a lot of relationships with racing and then woven it into other aspects. Ali has built a tremendous amount of SEMA booth vehicles, and not for just like smaller companies. He's put vehicles multiple times in booths like Hyundai's booth and different things like that. And he brings the race element into the booth. And what's so significant about that is that when you look at people that care enough about a sport, that they're prepared to invest in making sure that their connections and relationships further the sport rather than further themselves. That's a real earmark in somebody that is doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun working. Well, it's a lot of fun working with manufacturers because we've built cars for Hyundai, Toyota, Kia, GM, Honda. Yeah, at least maybe there's one more, but yeah, all those, and it's always fun, but then it's also very stressful.
Yeah.
Because they have all these rules, and it's when the conversation is always you talk to the marketing people, and everybody's so excited. Yes, let's do this. And then a few days goes by, then you get a call from the legal department, and then they go,
Yeah.
"Wait, you want to do what?" So,
Yeah. No,
that's how it was with Hyundai. When we first said we were going to build this race car, then the legal department says, "Well, great, but you can't race it. Why can't we race it? Well, that's dangerous. You can't race it. You can just show it." So.
Okay.
Guys, we have a disconnect here. This is not going to work.
All show and
It's
no
a
go.
race car.
Well,
Yeah.
And we built cars for SEMA before, and working with the OEs is like an interesting piece because you get this. All right. There's a lot that comes before you ever get a car, but let's say. You finally get to the point. So you've put your proposals in, you've gotten approval, you've had the interview, you've had the meetings, you've gotten your idea approved, you've gotten your livery done and approved, you got everything done. And the day comes where the car is supposed to be there so you can start building it for SEMA. And then it doesn't show up.
Oh God.
I've
Well-
never had a vehicle that showed up on time.
Well, it's not just that because they, like SEMA is always in November. So I always like when of course, with manufacturers, usually, I mean, like the Hyundai thing took like I don't know 2 years or so before we actually got the things going. So sometimes you're working 2-3 years in advance, and they expect you. They finally, by the time they hand you the car, it was I think like September.
Yeah.
Late August, September, and you're thinking, well. But SEMA is only early November, and then they have these things in the contract where, like in October, you're required to
shoots.
deliver the car to so and so place for a photo shoot and all this stuff.
Oh,
Like,
man.
how do you expect us to do this?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's terrible. We've received cars before, and it's been like the last day in September, and they deliver this thing, and we're like, what are we gonna do? We had a problem one year. I won't get into the story now, but the car was delivered so late, or they kept promising us we'd have it, and it just never showed. So finally, when they said, "Oh, we're gonna deliver it this date," we realized we couldn't build it here because we didn't have the time to ship it both ways. So we finally we built it on the West Coast just to get it to the show. But it is nerve-wracking. You're contractually obligated to.
Yeah.
They don't just give you cars for nothing.
Right, right. Yes, exactly. No, there's a lot of strings attached. So,
Yeah,
uh,
it's exhausting. But we.
but the whole SEMA build thing is exhausting because there's so many things that can go wrong, right? And always is, and I'm always calling, like, looking for this piece, looking for that piece, and
Yep.
it's it's not easy.
Well, and what people don't realize is a lot of times when you're given these cars, they think people think of it in the sense that they're just building an existing vehicle. But most of the time when you get a car, it's a new platform, or if it's not a new platform, well, actually, all the time they do this, but they usually write in that one area where it says, list all the manufacturers you'll be working with to prototype parts for the car.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, oh, well, I have to prototypes. Everybody wants the car for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember. Go ahead.
No, I said we built a Camry for Toyota when the '07 Camry came out,
Right.
and so they asked the same thing, like you just said. But like, we were going, okay, so who makes parts for a Camry? like they make floor mats. That's about it.
Yeah.
No.
So
Yeah.
everything had to be handmade, or special, So like the stuff, it was really, it was not easy.
No, that was the red one, right?
Yes,
So that turned into the USTCC pace car.
correct.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that car. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting thing. Like it was set up in the booth as the pace car. That was the whole, attraction livery piece behind it. And it's right. Like you get a Camry and they want to know which manufacturers you're going to be R&Ding parts with. And you're like, well, what do you want us to? So you lose that element of always being able just to go in the garage and fabricate your own exhaust. It's not the same.
Well, it sounds
Mhm.
to me very much like an against all odds situation,
Mm.
in the sense of like, here's this free car, but you have to jump through all these hurdles and go through all these hoops, and oh yeah, you only have this time frame. It's like, will you be able to do this or not?
Well, and sometimes the
Yeah.
cars aren't free. Sometimes they do those.
Dollar programs?
Well, there's the dollar program, then there's the crusher program, then there's the short-term, loan program. So you get the car for like a campaign year or 2 years,
Mhm.
and then you give it back. So everything you just did is crushed.
Yeah, yeah. There's that. Yeah, our Camry went to. I think it had to be crushed, but then there were some times, so I think they gave it to like a technical school or something like that.
Yeah,
So like the kids could take it apart and figure out, practice working on it.
yeah, yeah. There's that whole contract in there that you have to sign that basically says that when you're done with the car and you hand them back their plate, because usually it's under a manufacturer plate and insurance card, you have to give them back the certificate from the salvage yard that crushes the car to show that the car was destroyed.
Oh boy.
We're good? Sorry.
Hello.
We're having this internet day. Our internet keeps kicking out here, so I don't know if it's for the snow really, but we're surely struggling today.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
So
good.
anyhow, we were talking about SEMA cars, crushing cars. I don't know how many people heard that, but that's
Yeah.
where we were at.
We got to the end of that. I saw the stream. So We're back right where we left off.
Well, the other thing, Scott, the other thing that always Scott does to me is whenever we build these cars, we're talking about these strange cars.
Yep.
Scott always yells at me for, why can't you just build a normal car? Because I always go to him and go, I need wheels for this thing.
Well,
And he says, that's a weird car. We don't have wheels for that.
yeah. Well, it's not even just a weird car. He throws the weird car, and then he goes over there and he gets a stop tech brake, and it's about 47 millimeters of protrusion larger than any brake on the market. And he's like, "Oh, we're just running this thing with a 6-piston caliper in the front." And I'm like, "Well, so how do we know if it fits?" Well, this wheel fit with a 15 millimeter spacer. It's like, oh, here we go.
Nothing that a hammer can't fix.
Yeah, well, the one thing I know is that if anybody out there is going to be able to make something work that doesn't work and make it look like it works, it's Ali.
Hey, when you're dealing with some of these cars, if we were just building BMW 3 Series,
Right.
life would be simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, maybe. So with USTCC, you have a deal with CBS Sports, right? Final Drive TV?
NBC Sport.
NBC Sports, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Wrong network affiliation.
Yeah.
How does a deal like that come to fruition? Because, like, how many active cars do you have in an average field every year for USTCC?
We get about 20 cars.
Okay. How you would you classify your series as a regional series?
No, we're we're more West Coast.
Right.
And then we actually have raced all over the country. We tried doing the national thing, but it was just so expensive that very few people could afford to do it.
Right.
And then so we stopped doing that for a while, and then we started doing an East Coast and a West Coast thing, and that was really popular. But then the COVID hit, and that killed the East Coast thing for a long time.
Yeah.
So we lost all momentum there because for I think what was it last year when we did it, we had about 5 or 6 cars on the East Coast. So that was a good start for just like being only 2-3 races over there. So the goal is to bring that back, and ultimately the goal is to have East Coast and a West Coast, and then have a championship at like someplace like Coda in the middle or something like that.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Plus, I also think there's a lot of East Coast cars that could be good competitors. I mean, you got a lot of people that will even make it down to Road Atlanta from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Just an interesting bunch of guys. So how do you go about getting NBC Sports to sign on for a race series like USTCC?
Well, it wasn't easy. It wasn't an overnight thing, but we started off the TV thing just by doing online stuff. That was many years ago. We started doing that, and then once we got better, I started putting it on like public access TV networks, stuff like that. So we were there for a while, but it was a very crude production, and then we started, just getting better and better every year, to the point where it's like, okay, once we felt like, okay, we're ready to be broadcast ready on like a major network, then it was time to see if anybody wants to take us on. And so we had to send, basically, it was like auditioning, right? So you send all your stuff to them and see if anybody likes it. And so 2 networks liked it, and so NBC was one of them, and they said, well, before we put your stuff on, there's some stuff that needs to be improved. And I thought, okay, well, that's expected. But the stuff that they actually wanted improved was actually really minor stuff. I was expecting them to say like, oh no, well, you need to use this $50,000 camera or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was all really minor stuff. It was just about like, oh well, you had the title fade in, but you didn't fade it out, and you need to do stuff like that. Just minor little things like that.
You're like, noted.
Yeah, I was like, no problem. That's just one click.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah, it's interesting taking a series from start and then trying to develop a national base for it.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. And but we felt like um, if you want to have a professional series and you want to be taken seriously, you have to have a TV show. Um, and actually, that's one of the things that I see so many other series that spend so much more money and have much bigger budgets and everything that they don't have decent TV show at all. We've actually had one of the other series who actually tried to steal our production crew for their series. So we have to be careful because I loved our guys and they do such an amazing job. But one of the key things is we just don't have the budget to do the higher end stuff that some of these guys do. Because if you look at most of the higher the IMSAs and all those kind of series of the world, they all have rich guy or a rich company behind them,
Yeah.
and we don't have that.
Right. Yeah. It's a
I need
it's
some rich friends, is what I need.
Oh yeah.
A minor detail.
Well,
Yes.
I don't know, but if Ali meets any rich friends and they want to hang out with us,
Yeah.
we could use some rich friends.
Yes. And we need some like these wheels. We need those $10,000 wheels. That's
Yeah.
what we need.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we're on it. We're
Yeah.
well, that's right up our sleeve there.
Yes. Yes. But one of the things actually we're doing for this year is we're actually doing a second TV show.
Okay.
So this is we haven't announced it yet, but we're
Exclusive.
getting ready for it. Yeah.
You heard it first
You heard it
here.
here first. You actually did hear it first. But we're gonna do a kind of behind the scenes. You and I have kind of talked about this in the past, a little
Yeah.
short. But we're gonna do like a behind the scenes reality type show of the racing.
Yeah.
Because you were one of the people that always told me that people don't understand racing and what it takes to get there and
Yeah.
things like that.
No, they don't.
So we're going to show how teams, like, we're going to focus on one team at each race, and we're going to follow them around and show, like, okay, so like in our case, for example, like Wednesday before the race, we usually have a meeting in my kitchen, and we sit down and talk about what we're going to do and when we're going to do each thing. And then Thursday is like, okay, get the trailer out, start cleaning it, and start loading it up with everything. And Thursday night, depending on where the race is, Thursday night, Friday, whatever, that's when we go to the track and set up there. Who comes on what day? Who brings this car? Who brings the food? Who brings this? All those kind of things.
Right.
And then, of course, it's everything that goes on during the weekend, from setting up the car and deciding what tires and what wheels to put on and what alignment to run and what kind of fuel you run, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
So
And
we
there's
showed all.
so much of that's in racing, and so I forget who used to say this, but they used to say, like, most of like, when it comes down to racing, most of whether you win or lose and that whole thing and how your performance happens is not on track at all. like it happens way before you ever even get to the track.
Yeah. It's and you have to be, like, my job is, I have to do so many things to, have to make sure that we have the right crew there and everybody shows up at the right time and they have a place to stay and they have food and all those kind of things. But also have to make sure the cars are there and parts for the cars are there. And if something goes wrong, we have spare parts and we have somebody that can fix it, all those kind of things. Yeah, it's not easy, but you have to really be able to think and plan ahead, because planning is the key for it.
Yeah, that's spare parts.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
we wouldn't be good if we didn't mention Go-Go Gear, because Go-Go Gear not only is the name of your team, but
Mhm.
also of your business.
Yes. Yep. We do all kinds of stuff. We do everything from vehicle wraps and stickers to shirts, keychains, pens, trophies, apparel, all kinds of things like that.
I would imagine that that type of business is one of the keys to you being able to continue to race like you have, is that flexibility of being able to work in off hours, just get production done.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all semi-related with each other. Everything's kind of connected to each other. And if we do, if we do a say a SEMA car, then that helps us. We wrap it, and then that's also part of the wrap business and things like that. So everything's kind of interwoven. We can
Yeah.
also make stuff like what's on your table. We can make that.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, we may have to talk because we have an empty amount of stuff. We're just reaching for stuff at this point.
Well, I want your background in my living room is what I want.
Oh, I thought you said dining room.
Dining room, living room. I think I have more space in my dining room actually. Yeah, I'll take it in the dining room.
Yeah,
See, there you go.
yeah. Well, no problem.
Yeah.
Your wife would love that.
She does actually. We're about to make a coffee table, and we were looking at all the stores and everything. We couldn't find the right look,
Yeah.
and the one we're gonna do, we decided because she likes metal cutting and welding and things like that too.
Oh, awesome.
So
Sounds
we're
like a keeper.
going to definitely we're gonna make our own table, and I thought I want to put a Honda B16 block in the middle of the table. I thought that'd be kind of cool.
No, that's very cool. That
Yeah, not
Kinda
kind of
cool,
cool.
that's-
Yeah.
right. Our whole thing is like we're trying to come up with cool car furniture and we're building it ourselves. So like I have a
With
set.
$0.
So I have a set of Koenig Ultra forms that are mounted up on some Toyo proxies that I've had sitting, for a long time just because I'm like haven't really gotten to the track, and I'm like, you know what? I'll bring them in, we'll stack them up, we'll put a glass top on it. Table.
Yeah.
Oh, I love car
Yeah, well-
furniture.
Yeah, but it's hard if you do a couple of wheels. It's hard. You need one big wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you guys don't make a 17 an 18 by 15 inch wheel. You don't make that.
Well, I mean, no, but I mean, an 11's pretty big. I mean,
Yeah, you're talking about 4 inches.
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy. Well, I love those tables that they made with the F1, like they use the F1 wheels.
Yeah. Well, that's
And-
what he's talking about.
I know, but they're not 18-inch. Those things are like
Well,
50,
I
you
meant in terms
Yeah.
of width.
Width wise though, yeah.
they're so cool. It's like I've been trying, we for a long time our parent company was one of the wheel suppliers for a couple F1 teams. So I've been asking them for years to go into like their storage area and send us one of the F1 wheels to build a table, and it just always keeps getting put on the back burner.
You should have taken it off the car that was at SEMA. That you should have taken it off one of those cars.
Ali, do you remember that car? We had the Toro
I do.
Rosso.
Yeah.
That was a nightmare.
Why?
First off, just for everybody out there, in case you're looking to have an F1 car in your booth at SEMA, first thing is you have to spend months and months and months trying to get clearance through the team to actually have the permission to use one of their cars, because remember, they have like 5 of them. They're like identical replicas. And so you have to get permission, which means the car has its own scheduling around the world that it needs to be at. So, you have to work on all that. Then you get through that, and you have to have these insurance riders like you would not believe.
Oh, God.
Then you have to pay for a person from their insurance company and one person from their team to escort the car through the entire travel. So what they do is that person, I guess, goes from wherever the team home base is and they package up the car in this big crate. And then they follow the crate to the vessel. It gets loaded, or, I mean, I guess some air freight instances, but it gets loaded onto the vessel, makes its way across. Then they fly these people to the other place, wherever it's going. They receive the car off. Every move this car made, it had to be escorted.
I mean, I got to be honest. This sounds like the beginning of a heist movie.
Oh, it's terrible. So then the car gets there, and we had it up on like 24-inch high platforms. So the logical thing when you're in Las Vegas and dealing with the union is you have to pay them to do the rigging. You're not allowed to do anything.
Yeah. You can't pick
So-
up a pen without their approval.
That's right. Yeah. So we got to use these guys to do the rigging. Now, no disrespect to labor or union or them, but sometimes the clientele that's going to be operating this isn't exactly who you would expect or want to be handling, a multi-million-dollar chassis.
Yeah.
So they say, hey, we're going to get this rigging. And as soon as these guys showed up with a forklift and some tow straps, like, I saw the look on the face of the person from the team, and I was like, and they're like, well, this won't do. Like,
Oh man.
so then you had to figure that whole debacle up. We finally get the thing up. It doesn't even have an engine because they won't ship you the engine. That's like a million, tons of money right there.
Yeah.
So you
You're
finally
lucky
get
you
to this
got the
car. You have to have this separate insurance rider throughout the whole show and promise that you'll inspect, like you. So anybody that runs near the car, you're always running away from them, trying to get them to go away, because one picture that goes to one of the teams, you're spent.
Oh my god.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Never again.
Yes, it's not your normal things.
No, not our normal things.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have taken up a bunch of your time. I appreciate you for chatting with us and kind of sharing some good stories with some of our friends.
Oh no, this has been awesome. Thank you very much for having me. This is
Is there anything that you want to tell people or anything you want to plug? USTCC, I mean, obviously they can do some Google searching, but this is a good place to do it.
no, I mean, it's they can always share, follow us and on social media, things
Yeah.
like that, Instagram, Facebook, things like that. So we more followers the better.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they no, just love the Koenig wheels. That's what I need to plug is your awesome wheels,
Oh,
because
thanks.
back in 90, when we first started, I think it was 96, 97 when we were first dealing with Koenig. And yes, somebody turned me on to Joe at the time, and said like, oh, try these wheels. And I thought, well, are these good for racing? Are they going to hold up? Are they going to break? I mean, I've never heard of this. What is this? And and they said, oh, yeah, just try them. Here's a set. Try it out. See what you like. And we thought, wow, this is awesome. And we've been there ever since. And they're fantastic wheels. So they're
Yeah.
you can't beat them for what they are. They're just unbelievable.
Yeah. And it's been interesting watching us, and I say this when I say watching us, as much as I'm inside the company, I'm also, a car person and fanatic. And so I get more excited probably than anybody when we're able to introduce a new technology, like 10, 12 years ago when we started doing flow forming, and we're able to do some other things. We've talked a lot about this year about how we're starting a forge line, and to be able to bring these things and be able to be with a company as we progress in different parts of the world and motorsport community has been, it's really an interesting but also a fun journey.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to see your forge line. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty
to
excited.
see. Yeah, but no, the I don't know, we built this one of the cars you helped us build was BMW. We did an F30 BMW for SEMA back in I think 2012 or whatever, and we used one of your wheels on it, and on the and we were talking about all this stuff on BMW forums. And of course, when you put your stuff on forums, you get all these people making wise ass comments and stuff. and people, and I didn't even know this at the time, but we had some really major haters because they were going, oh, these are just replica so-and-sos. How dare you put these things on there?
Yeah.
And I have no idea. I didn't even know these were replica so-and-sos or whatever. I just thought they were good looking wheels. But I would thought, well, what's wrong with them? So what if they work, they're strong, they look good. So who cares if they cost 1/3 the price? what's the problem? I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think that there's also we've talked about this before. I mean, I don't think, especially in the last 7 or 8 years, we really don't have any, kind of product that has, any replica kind of stuff. But what's interesting to me is that, we've talked about this before, just in wheel designs, is that as you start to develop wheels, there is a big there's a very difficult part about when you start to develop a wheel, how there's so many wheels out there, there's so many different styles that there really isn't any one wheel you can look to and point to and say that one doesn't look even remotely like the next one. Some of the wheels that I don't really like for some other brands can do that, but there's a lot of resemblance. To recreate the wheel can be a very difficult thing, and to try to make something that no one can ever draw a correlation to, especially when it's so subjective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That can be a tough thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for if you're building a show car, obviously some people want to have this label on it, but that's the whole thing why people buy a BMW rather than a Honda, because they want the label. But no, for me, as a racer, we want to make sure the wheel's strong, it looks good, but it does its job and doesn't cause us any problems. So that's the number one thing.
Yeah.
One of the other things, actually, we have a new partner this year where it's like a TPMS system, but it's like a racing TPMS system, and it gives you all kinds of data inside the wheel and things like that. I haven't even played around with that yet, but it's really promising. I can't wait to see that.
That's awesome. Yeah, keep us in the loop on that, because that sounds like something that might offer some really incredible feedback that some people don't have.
Yeah, it comes with, instead of the usual TPMS sensor, it's got like a little hockey puck you put inside the tire. You actually stick it to the tire, and then it gives you all kinds of data as the tire rotates. You get all kinds of data to your laptop or phone or whatever. It's crazy.
How much does the puck weigh?
Not much, less than your average cell phone. I mean, it's really light.
Right. I just didn't know if there would be any like ill balance effects that
No,
would
no,
come.
it's quite
counterweighting.
light. No, it's really light.
Cool. That's interesting. Yeah, keep us in the loop on that. I'm curious to see what kind of information that they have available that you can acquire from their data.
Yeah, I mean, I know for sure it gives you the temperature, and it gives you the pressure, of course, but it also has like some kind of through the sonic waves or something like that it actually measures the thickness of the rubber too, so you know how much rubber you have left.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So my big thing was I wanted to something that does like they have an F1 where you have an infrared temperature sensor, so you can see your inside, middle, and outside temperatures live. That would be a really cool thing.
Oh yeah.
But this is, I think this comes close to that, but doesn't exactly do that. But it does give you a carcass temperature too.
I think it'd be completely amazing for you when setting up a car. It'd probably really expedite correctly setting up a car and getting a car dialed in after a practice session, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And we have so much data, and thankfully, my son's an engineer. My one of our drivers, Gary Sheehan, he's an engineer. So between them, we analyze a lot of data, and we just have to have time to do it, because that's the key. Is you get all this data, now what do you do with it?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. The one piece of data that we're always kind of looking for from especially a lot of the cars that have a lot of aero on them is to see how much actual force and torque thrust gets placed on a wheel, like especially hard into a turn,
Right.
From all that aero and extra downforce. So because in the wheel world, a lot of what's put there is static load rating. So there could be especially with weight transfer deep in a corner, there can be a lot of change in load, and having that data really helps when you start to develop the effective load rating of wheels.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so one of I know we had a guy who we worked on his car. He had a BMW, and he used somebody else's wheels, and these were not cheap wheels. And what I noticed compared to his wheels, compared to my Koenigs, that they were much heavier. So I thought, wow, these wheels are expensive and they're so much heavier. But I figured, okay, maybe they're really strong. After one day on the track, the wheel was totally bent. You know, where you when you spin it on the balancing machine, you'd see this thing is an oval.
Yeah, it had
It's
a lot
not
of run
round.
out.
And yeah, I mean, there was, and all because he was hitting berms or something with it, and that would just destroy the wheel.
There's no doubt that if you want to, take corners and do a lot of curb checking, that it puts an enormous amount of stress on a wheel, especially if you're loaded up in a corner, right? Like if you're going through it, your hope, I guess the hope is that you're not on that apron when, when you're fully loaded in the car. Usually you're on the other way, but yeah, doing curb checking can really do some hard damage to a wheel.
Yeah, no, well, I've seen cars at the track where the hub of the wheel stays and the rest of it just breaks off
Yeah.
and leaves the car.
Yeah, and that's such the importance of that FEM testing, and why that makes so much of a difference to do the computer aided testing before you ever even pop a mold. Because load rating, like I said, you can make load rating and still have points. And the one thing we try to do is make sure that we run the scenario for how we feel impact and stress will be applied to a wheel before we even make it, to see where those points are. And that happens a lot. A lot of people will say things along the lines of, why couldn't you make this wheel weigh 0.4 less, or sometimes all the time we opt to put certain material back into places to ensure that it doesn't just pass, it exceeds where we need it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I do the same thing when I'm selecting wheels. Most people just want the lightest wheel, but I actually like some of the heavier wheels because they last longer. So
Oh yeah,
because you need a little bit of, it's a lot different just driving on the street cruising around than actually pulling 1.5 Gs as you're hitting berms and stuff.
yeah. Oh, it's a big difference. And the things that racers do about playing with tire pressures and suspension adjustments, all these things change the weight distribution that a wheel experiences, because obviously you're trying to load up a tire in a certain way to get certain adhesion. So that changes everything.
Yeah, definitely. Same thing with the car, because I've had manufacturers tell me when I'm telling them how their production street car just doesn't last more than a lap on the track at speed because everything starts to overheat and go away.
Yeah.
And they say, oh well, our car wasn't designed for that. What you're doing. But it's a sports car. If you can't do one lap with it at speed, what good is this thing?
Yeah. Well, and we've seen that though. We've seen that for years, whether it be, when people first got their hands on the new Civic Type R, they started running them and realized that they had an overheating issue just because of the coolant design, which was integrated. I think we as car people continuously are looking for that edge just to make something better than it was. But I get your point. Like you expect a certain minimum out of any product, whether it be a car or a wheel.
Yeah, definitely. But it's funny because in like the case of cars, money doesn't mean that you get something good.
Right.
Because I see people, you can show up with like look at an M3, like an E46 M3, very popular track car, right? But you got to do all these things to it so that they can survive on the track, because the chassis cracks and the engine oilings has problems and the cooling system sucks and all these things. But then you can go buy $1,000 Integra off of Craigslist and drive it on the track and no problem.
It's like a Miata. You can bring a Miata to the racetrack, change the oil before you get there, make sure there's air in the tires, and just hold the thing flat out the entire day.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
But good luck getting on a highway with one of those things. That's terrifying.
No.
Well,
Either way.
only for snowing though.
Oh man, Ali, I really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us, and I don't know. I mean, I'm excited. So give everybody. We're now officially almost a full 1.5 months into 2021. What does 2021 look like for you, USTCC, and the events that you have going on?
It looks great. So we have 7 races. It's actually, the schedule is looking really good because we have 7 races on 6 different tracks. So we're going to be racing up and down the West Coast, and so we're going to be racing at Vegas, Fontana, Buttonwillow, Sonoma Raceway, Laguna, and Thunder Hill. So a lot of good tracks, and we start April 10th in Las Vegas, and yeah, then we have, of course, the TV show and the behind the scenes TV show. So yeah, we're really excited about all this stuff. Hopefully we can get it in time. And of course, our personal team, our own team, is getting bigger. We have new drivers coming on board this year. Hopefully our engines will last and we won't have any braking issues. So,
That's that prayer that we say at the dinner table.
yes. Yes, I have a friend who every time right before the race, as I see it, he sees these cars, going on the track. He's praying, and I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I would just pray, like, oh my God, how much is this going to cost me this time? Just this next half hour." So,
Yeah, yeah. That's about right. When are you guys racing Fontana?
Fontana, we're in April 24th, 25th.
Okay. Well, I don't know if we're gonna pandemic before then, but if I can get out there, that would be cool.
Yeah, right.
You need to
I'm
come to one of
overdue.
these events. You are.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well overdue.
Everybody, you and Joe. I've been working on him for 25 years.
I know. I'm supposed to be in California, and it's like this pandemic thing really has taken that away for a little while.
Yeah. Well, it'll be over soon, I hope.
Yeah, you and everybody else, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, we're gonna link down to all Ollie's information below. And listen, thanks again for doing this. And I don't know, we wish you a lot of success this year.
Thank you very much. No, we need it. We'll of course we'll stay in touch through social media and all those
Absolutely.
things. Let us know if you need anything, and yeah, we'll definitely be plugging away and be promoting Koenig.
Awesome. I appreciate that, Ali. So that's it. I think we're gonna wrap up here. Again, make sure you stay tuned for Friday. We're gonna be dropping another piece of content. If you're not subscribed already, and the last check was about 78% of you are not, so change that number. And also there was one more thing. Oh yeah, make sure you check out the hub rings on the store. They're cool. They're good quality pieces. We spent a little bit looking around to make sure we made the right rings. Aluminum ones are really nice. They're engraved, and the plastic ones have good tension tabs so they don't fall out at you, because that's like the thing. Anyhow, check Friday. We'll try to put a video up about it.
And
Anyhow,
get some merch while you're at it.
yeah, I mean we're putting new merch up sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can get a lanyard.
Anyhow, thanks for hanging out with us. We will be back here next Wednesday. And don't forget, we always go live on Instagram and Facebook, 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. So that's it. We will catch you next week. Take care.
Thank you very much, guys.